What's going on, Babylonians? It's me, SongsOfRaze, back with another Outriders video to bring to you, and today we're actually going to be looking over possibly one of the best weapon mods that's actually in this game that everyone kind of overlooked until more recently, and that's because it's become a little bit more prevalent when it comes to the Devastator firepower build. Now, this is Ultimate Damage Link, and if you haven't already used this, this is currently found on the Voodoo Matchmaker, and overall it's a brilliant mod. And to be fair, I absolutely loved it when I first started Outriders. I genuinely thought the Voodoo Matchmaker was my favourite gun, and until I found like the burst ARs that obviously you can use for the Technomancer. But the fact that you can do Ultimate Damage Link combined with that of the toxic bullets for blighted rounds just meant that you were spreading out so much of the damage pretty much everywhere, and it just meant that you were melting everyone that just kind of comes in your way. So what we're actually going to do is we're going to show to you that actually you don't need blighted rounds to be able to achieve very well and do actually quite well in expeditions, especially as a Technomancer. We're going to show why the Technomancer is able to actually use a middle tree to be able to achieve a lot of damage as actual firepower, and yeah, pretty much go into it. So no longer do we really need top tree unless we're going for either storm carries, but just standard general expeditions like this, it's actually one of the best kind of one of the kind of best builds that's actually currently out there, and Ultimate Damage Link is technically better than Dark Sacrifice in that kind of sense. So what we'll do is we'll show as to why that's the case. We're going to show some gameplay that's in the background, and we're also going to go over how I've currently built my character to be able to actually take advantage of this. But before we get into that, make sure you drop a like and a subscribe. It does help the channel out, and thank you all so much to everyone there. We are really pushing for that 2K mark, and once we hit that, we will be able to do some kind of like competition giveaway to be able to, you know, give back to you, to be able to thank you for all the support that you've given us so far. So let's have a look, let's get right into it, and let's have a look at what currently we've got going so far. So if I press my inventory button, you'll notice that the stats for my character aren't necessarily that great, especially when it comes to like firepower and anomaly power, and the best of it is we're not really looking to be able to increase that too much, and that's just how good this mod actually can be. When it comes to health and armor, the reason why we've gone for quite a bit in this is because we are planning to use a shotgun. Now, shotguns for Technomancers aren't exactly the best thing to be able to go for because you primarily deal in long range damage. Now, obviously shotguns don't really specialize in that, and there is a tiny niche where if you actually go for top tree and you reduce the long range multiplier when it kind of like kicks in by 6 meters, then yes, actually you can actually find a very small range where shotguns are actually really powerful for a Technomancer. But overall, it requires a lot of spacing. It requires a lot of kind of like mana management to be able to figure out where that actually is. And if enemies get within that, then you kind of are kind of screwed. So normally we would kind of stay away from that, but what we're actually doing with this is because Ultimate Damage Link gets procced on pretty much every single enemy that gets hit with that first shot when it's actually come off its cooldown, you can actually link so many enemies with this, and that's basically what we're relying on here to be able to do so. If you want a full like proper breakdown as to how Ultimate Damage Link actually kind of works, I will link a Dude with a Blunt's video in the description below when he used it for a Devastator, but I wanted to show it off as to what a Technomancer, let's be honest, the true powerhouse of firepower builds can actually do with this, and how effective it can be with the most broken set that's in the game, which is the Borealis set. So let's have a look. So I've currently gone for a Bulwark. Now I'm going to get ripped for a new one for Halfwit, who's over in the official Discord for Outriders, because I've been talking about the Bulwark being meta for a little while now, most of the time as a joke, but I've always wanted the Bulwark to basically be the kind of gun to just even for like 5 seconds, just for it to have some bragging rights, and I think now it technically does. And the reason why is because we are going for status power, but we're also going for close range damage, and we're also looking for that ultimate bleeding bullets. Now, the reason why we've gone for that is because it's probably the best shotgun that actually does inflict a status in this game. We're also looking to be able to use another multiplier mod on our armor to be able to further increase the damage we're able to deal, and I do think that ultimate bleeding bullets is probably the best way to go. Now, if there was a shotgun that was able to deal freeze and still have ultimate damage link on, then by all means I probably would have gone for that, but unfortunately this is the best one we're going to be able to go for, and like I said, it does actually provide us with another kind of like damage multiplier just to be able to help us out a little bit more. So we're going for the Bulwark, ultimate bleeding bullets, ultimate damage link. Now I do have a second gun on this because it doesn't always work, or I say it doesn't always work, but it's the interaction this has requires quite a few enemies to be actually grouped up together. If you end up facing one enemy by itself, so an elite, and they have no other enemies nearby to be able to take advantage of, then you're going to need something that's going to be able to do single target damage, and that's why we've gone for our Snow Squall Grand Opening rifle, one-shot rifle, to be able to deal with that. And it also helps out with those birds. If you ever go into like some of those expeditions where the birds are just flying around and they're being all pesky, because they do tend to fly out of your shotgun range, it's very difficult to be able to get ultimate damage link to be able to proc on a bunch of enemies. Therefore, we've gone for this to be able to, you know, help out with that kind of thing. So we actually do have a ranged version as well, and we're able to do quite a bit of damage with that as well. So if we go from there over to the build, it's very legendary heavy. That's currently how I've built it up, but that's because I want to get all the mods that I want to be able to get, you know, pretty much propped it up. So we are going for a 3-piece of the Borealis. Now this will be the helmet, this will be the chest, and this will be the legs. And then I believe we've gone for a torrential downpours, and there's a reason we'll get into that in a second as well. So Crown of the Borealis, we've gone for twins for our cryo turret, and we've also gone for the cycle. Now the cycle is a fan favourite of mine, so therefore, you know, there's a reason for that as well, which we'll get into it, but the idea was that I wanted to be able to use and abuse all 3 of the skills that are actually found in the middle tree. So that would be Fixing Wave as well, and therefore there's going to be that ultimate combo that I always like to run, which is Fixer Upper combined with the cycle. And the additional weapon damage is really what helps, I do feel, with this, what makes it so much better than the Devastator. But technically both builds are still viable, both are still quite devastating, pun intended, and therefore, you know, you don't necessarily need it, but I do think this actually does help out. So I've gone for twins as well, just to be able to help spread that freeze, and just because I think the crown's probably the best one to be able to go for. I thought that the 3 pieces of the top 3 pieces anyway that boost our firepower were the best ways to go for this. So I do think that twins was a good idea. If we go over there to the robe, we've gone for Icicle Storm as standard because Icicle Storm really does help out with AoE, and it's also going to help out massively with the ultimate damage link now, because the damage from all the explosions obviously gets multiplied by the Borealis, and you tend to see some kind of like domino effect of a cascade. We've also gone for that on top of the ultimate damage link, which means that we're also sharing more of that damage, and that will help to be able to literally just one explosion just wipe everything out on the face of things. So rather than just do a little bit of damage here, we're making sure everything gets nuked. We've also gone for Fixer Upper, like I just mentioned, so therefore we're getting our health regen. Helps to keep us alive because obviously as a Technomancer we are normally kind of squishy, but also we are looking to be able to get that additional weapon damage on top of that from the cycle. So then over there we've gone for the Waistcloth of the Borealis. Now I've gone for Stare into the Barrel because we are looking to be able to get close range, so therefore this was probably the best way to be able to stack our firepower. I do tend to avoid things like Sharp Eye or anything like that, because that does require you to be able to get kills while aiming down sights, but the majority of the kills that we're going to be getting, this is the reason why I don't run Blighted rounds, is because it's going to be mod damage that's actually killing the majority of the enemies, so therefore you're only benefiting from like 1 enemy compared to like the 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 that you're going to be killing in just one group. So therefore it felt better to actually have that boost ready to go for when we all have all those people, like all the enemies that are stood around us, so therefore it really does help out with that. And we've also gone for Freezing Boost because we want to do a little bit more damage to any enemies that are frozen, and that really helps out with the Borealis as well. Next up we've gone for Gauntlets of the Cannonball. I do think the Gauntlets are the best piece of the whole Cannonball set. 1, because it rolls with Captain Hunter, 2, because it rolls with bonus firepower on gloves, which normally roll with max health, and it's also got cooldown reduction on there as well, so it does really help out with trying to, you know, make your way through the rounds, make your way through the skills to be able to obviously get them back a little bit quicker, ready for your next activation. On that, we've gone for Frostbite, so while frozen, because we aren't using a rounds-based skill, I do think this opens up Frostbite to actually being a very good skill, and to be fair, most of the time it actually does help out quite a bit, especially with getting that first kill. So while frozen, enemies have their armor reduced by 100% for the duration of being frozen, and it just helps out with being, like I said, just being able to clear enemies out on that. And then lastly, we've gone for the Torrential Downpour's Footgear. Now this gives us a little bit of health, and it does give us our cooldown reduction, but it also, more importantly, gives us our Quartermaster, and that allows us to be able to, while I said it does refill our mag, but it also, because it triggers our Capstone, you do tend to run out of ammo quite quickly with the Bulwark because there's no Vampiric Mag or anything like that on here, because like I said, you are clearing out so many enemies, so therefore you don't really benefit from it as much. So you do actually feel like so it's almost like you drop your ammo on your magazine quite low, you activate your fixer-upper, you get a massive damage boost, and you also get your magazine back. So it does help out a little bit with ammo, kind of conserve the conservation. And then lastly, we've gone for Shatter, because Shatter is just really important for any kind of Borealis build. So therefore we're going to do another 25% damage to frozen enemies. If we go over there from the skills, like I said, we are purely going for middle tree when it comes to the class, so therefore we are picking up every single one of those that gets affected by the cooldown bonus and also affects overclock. So therefore we are picking up our Cryo, we are picking up our Fixing Wave, and we are picking up our Cold Snap. Now I do wish they had a little bit more of a cooldown, like a little bit less in that kind of side, but overall this is definitely an easy enough rotation. Overclocked only procs once every 10 seconds, that's when it kind of disappears, and you've got 3 skills to be able to activate within that 10-second frame, and there's more than enough to be able to go around, so you don't need to worry too much in regards to that. You also have your melee that inflicts freeze, so therefore you have plenty of options on hand to be able to inflict freeze to pretty much any enemy that you actually need to. If we go over there to the skill tree, so like I said, we are purely going for a middle tree. And I've gone to try and maximise as much damage as I could do, and to try and reduce all the cooldown, all that kind of thing. So the idea is I wanted to pick this little one here because I had a couple of points left over, so I wanted to increase my weapon damage by 8%. I've also done the same with the one up here, so I'm also increasing my weapon damage there. And then we are going bottom tree for the middle tree up until grabbing a little bit of armour. But we are picking up all the health nodes, we are picking up the additional damage to freeze, we're picking up both the cooldown reduction nodes, we're picking up Wipeout because I absolutely love Wipeout. Pick a little bit of armour, exposing frost to be able to inflict vulnerable and make it a bit more effective, because freeze is better. We aren't going into toxic, so therefore we are going into freeze, and it makes sense to be able to increase the amount of damage we're dealing there. And then lastly we are picking up overclocked just to be able to increase our weapon damage and our anomaly power, but it also gives us a revive just in case we actually do kind of get a little bit close, because like I said, we are Technomancers, we are kind of squishy, so therefore it's nice to have that revive pretty much ready to go. So if we have a look into the stats, it's just to give you an idea as to how it kind of looks. That's basically what it is. I'm not getting much benefit from the close range damage or anything like that, but overall we're getting a nice damage reduction. Health is pretty good, to be fair, so therefore yeah, overall it's pretty nice. So how does the interaction with this kind of work then? So ultimate damage link basically relies on you being able to inflict the same thing to, or the same kind of, it's not really a status, but it is kind of the same, it kind of is at the same time. So it relies on you inflicting that status to more than one enemy. Now if you see a big target that you're trying to take down, so let's talk about like broodmothers, let's talk about behemoths or anything like that, or alpha, it works purely brilliantly on alpha perforers because they normally spawn in packs. What you want to do is you want to fire your first shot that triggers ultimate damage link onto that target first. That's the main thing you want to do. And then from there, if you have it readily available, you want to activate your Cold Snap. Cold Snap will reduce the armor to be able to affect the next target that's within the to be able to link back up to that alpha perforer that you've just hit. And what that'll do is it will also freeze the first target that you shot, and then when you shoot the second enemy that you're going for, there you're also getting a damage multiplier on them, but the ultimate damage link will then actually double dip, and it will actually increase exponentially the damage that you're dealing to the alpha perforer. So let's try and do it a different way. So target A, target B. It's easier with 2 targets. It works basically because it's a shotgun. It works up to any kind of like amount of targets that you really want to be able to do and be able to hit. But let's just go with 2. So target A is the main target that you want to be able to take down. Target A is an elite. Target A and B are pretty much within right next to each other. You hit target A with your ultimate damage link. Target B gets tagged. And any damage that you do to target A is now inflicted to target B by 40% of your weapon damage and 20% of your anomaly. You activate your Cold Snaps, obviously giving yourself all those bonuses to Borealis set. You also give it so you're able to ignore armor. You then shoot target B 1 second after you've tagged target A, and the reason why you need to do that is because ultimate damage link actually procs afterwards, so you want to go for that. So you go for target B, you shoot target B then links back to target A, and then every single bit of damage that you're doing there is then sent, 40% of that is sent back to target A, but that 40% is then dipping back into Borealis, it's dipping back into all the other damage multipliers that you've got going on. And normally what this will do is you'll see higher damage numbers on target A due to this, then you will actually be dealing to target B with your actual weapon. And it's so weird, and I love the interaction. It is kind of bugged, I guess, in a way. It's kind of broken, but it's such a good value. And what this allows, what this mod single-handedly makes, that you don't need any kind of bullet skill. It's for any class whatsoever. You can literally just get away with ultimate damage, but it does mean that you actually have to do some setup. Now, when it comes to Technomancers, in their firepowers, they have their blighted rounds, they have their burst ARs, they can literally just wipe people out, and they don't need to worry about who's nearby, they don't need to worry about their spacing or anything like that. This kind of does require a little bit of skill in that kind of thing. It requires a little bit of setup, but once you do, you'll just instantly delete anything that's on the screen. And it's important to remember that interaction, because that's, if you can't get that interaction to actually work, you can't get that interaction to actually be there, and you don't have enough enemies around. This is why I said that you need a backup weapon, which is why we've got the Snow Squall grand opening one-shot rifle. If you can't get anything to that extent, then you're going to need to fall back on a different weapon, you're going to need a different kind of strategy, and that's why I do have that. So I have two different playstyles in the exact same build, and it just allows me to be able to swap back and forth. Overall, do I think this is going to overtake the rounds-based meta that's pretty much prevalent in Outriders? Not really. I do think that it's a lot of fun, I do think it's a great challenge, and I do think it's a great way to be able to mix up and to allow people to be able to make different kind of builds. I'm messing around with this for an anomaly power kind of build as well, and overall it's kind of promising at this moment in time, but it does need a little bit more work, it does need a little bit more testing, so keep your eyes out in the next week or two for what I'm calling the nuclear winter build, but it will make more sense obviously when it actually does come around. But at this moment in time, I do think Ultimate Damage Link is such a good mod. I do think it should be up in contention with things like Dark Sacrifice or Killing Spree, or maybe even the anomaly rounds, sorry, not the anomaly rounds, the anomaly based kind of mods as well, which is the Claymore Torrent and the Shadow Comet that's almost being used on the Funeral Pyre. By all means, you can get away with using one of those, the Funeral Pyre with this. If you don't want to use Bleed, then by all means go with that, because any damage that you deal with the Shadow Comet will then obviously then get transferred over, and it will help with that additional damage. I thought it was a bit too long of a cooldown, that's why I chose not to use the Funeral Pyre, but feel free to mess about with that yourself. So that pretty much wraps up the video. Thank you all so much for watching. It really does mean the world to us that you've obviously came and chose to watch some of our content and be able to make it this far into the video as well. Like I said, I will be dropping a link to a Dude with a Blunt's video showcasing how this works on the Firepower Devastator, and by all means go over there, drop a like, drop a view, maybe even drop a subscription. I mean, we haven't been in touch with the guy, but the breakdown that he does for the mod, and just to showcase how effective it is definitely worth it in terms of the Outriders community, so I highly recommend that you go over there and have a look. But thank you all so much for watching. I hope you've learned something useful with ourselves. Hopefully it gives you another way to be able to try out some of these builds, and I'd love to be able to play around with this a little bit more when it comes to a Technomancer. It may even affect my nuclear winter kind of build as well, because this has been kind of eye-opening as to how devastating it really can actually be. So as always, thank you so much to the Babylonian family. It really does mean the world to us. And like I said, if you want to be able to get your name on the end of every single one of our videos, all you need to do is click that join button and just follow the instructions over there. So thank you all so much. Keep yourselves safe, keep yourselves well, and I'll see you all on our next video.